Hi everyone, welcome. What you see here on the bench are my African night crawlers that I received from Northeast Worms. This bin here was launched with the worms that I received from Gaetano 60 days ago. And the bin's doing pretty good. He sent me what he estimated to be something in the neighborhood of about 500 worms, I believe, but it was also commingled with a bunch of cocoons and babies in that material too, supposedly. So I don't really know what to expect as far as the finished population in this bin is concerned, but it was a couple weeks ago that we decided to follow through on some advice that said, hey, if you want to really keep the size of your nice African night crawlers big, then you really got to get them out of the bin that they're occupying if they've already been there for a while, because they've probably been leaving behind cocoons. They might have been already creating some offspring and babies. And as soon as the babies start living with the adults start to lose size, apparently. This is all conjecture or just what I've heard. So I'm actually trying this myself, and I think a couple other worm channels might be trying this as well. So in that same vein, we've got this adult bin now of ANCs. A couple weeks old now. We came in here a week ago to feed. Both bins were given coffee, a variety of veggies. No, you know what? I think I actually put all the coffee in here and forgot to leave some for the other one. So I think one of the bins actually received only veggies, and the other one got veggies and coffee. And we're back in here to do the same. Feed them today with a similar arrangement of what you see here in this little container. It's, once again, coffee, including the coffee filters. And besides the coffee, there's just a variety of different frozen veggies over here, as well as a couple skins of bananas. So I'm going to put on a glove, and we're going to get to feeding these bins. Once I've got my glove on, I'm all set to go. So here in the 60-day-old bin, we've got plastic coverings, which is something I try to wean myself off of using, usually. And after 60 days, which is almost 2 months at this point, you would have to start questioning whether it might be time to kind of let this bin not rely so much on the plastic for maintaining such nice moisture as it does here in the middle. And just start relying on its own content, because these castings have this incredible ability to retain moisture. And sometimes you'll even see people who don't even cover their bin out. It's all exposed to the air, and as soon as you peel back half an inch of this dry surface material, you immediately hit some really nice damp stuff. And I mean, even the plastic that you saw was kind of cinched in a little bit to not have it covering the far outer edges. Trying to just let the outer edges get a little bit more ventilation and opportunity to dry. There's certainly no dryness issue here. There's a good, cool, damp feel to the stuff out here. And as we start to make our way in to the spot where the food was placed in, and beneath where the plastic was, we'll probably start to find a lot more dampness in the material. So I am starting to question whether I need to keep that plastic on, or if we can, at this point, I'll usually try to treat it as an upgrade, trying to leave it in my brain as sort of a positive direction for it to go, for it to get just paper-only coverings that, you know, provide a little bit more airflow versus needing to depend on the plastic to hold the moisture in. So I do feel like this bin definitely seems to, I'm going to go a little bit deeper here just out of curiosity, because it does seem like when you do get a handful of the stuff in your hands, you start to question in your mind, well, hey, you know, what percentage of it is actually castings now, and what percentage of it is bedding materials, you know, not broken down, not yet broken down stuff. And I mean, I'll leave it up to you guys to guesstimate what the percentage was, but I'll do it again. When I reach down, I get a handful of stuff that obviously has little chunks of whatever, shredded paper in it, little sticks and stems of leaves, right? Perhaps even a larger chunk of leftover food or cardboard, but for the most part, this bin is coming along really nice, basically. That's my point. So, I'm just curious. We did sort of start out checking the edge where it would be driest, where it was not covered by plastic. And I think already there we had pretty much determined that this bin is probably ready to be switched up to just paper coverings. I think we'll do that today. So the plastic will stay off, and I'll have to fashion a quick paper cover for this thing for us to continue covering with, because I like to have some sort of cover, you know. But I try to dial in what type of cover I'm using to suit the needs. So that's pretty cool, little baby worm there. It's always kind of cool when I assume I'm starting with big worms and all of a sudden I start spotting little baby worms, and that's, I don't know, kind of gets me jazzed, because it does suggest that the worms are comfortable enough that they're, you know, propagating, which is nice. And I don't even know if we've made it down to where the previous food was applied, because it does feel like as I go a little bit deeper, I'm starting to bump into stuff. But what I'm hitting could already be bedding. But no, I think this is actually the rind of a piece of cantaloupe melon. I mean, it's paper thin, obviously. So that's still part of what they were fed. Maybe not last time. Because last time I thought it was chunks of cabbage or whatever it might have been. That might go back a couple feedings at this point. There's no mobbing of worms anywhere, really. They're just kind of all over the place. As far as little chunks of cabbage go, I don't see any. As far as anything that stands out to me as clearly leftover coffee, I didn't really... Earlier I thought I had spotted a little bit, but it wasn't even enough to make me flinch. So it does seem like they've done away with everything they'd been given as food last time. So, before we start piling in about half of this for them, or maybe even a little bit more than half, like we did last time, I want to get some bedding. So I recently adopted the very valuable extra step of maintaining some pre-made bedding. This is just shredded cardboard and newspaper mixed in with leaves. And then I even threw in a little bit of, finished worm castings just to help introduce some sort of life into the sterile material. Hopefully some, beneficial bacteria and microbes and fungi and who knows what. So the, I don't know, the bins that I've been able to use this stuff in so far have been limited. In a few cases I've been just tending to older bins that aren't really receiving any fresh bedding or anything, perhaps just a touch of food, because I might be trying to bring those systems to an end. So it's nice to be in a bin that's still got some work to do as far as getting to the finish line, so I can use a little bit more of my pre-made bedding. This is the stem of a banana. This was that peel of the cantaloupe melon. So we can come in with about half of this stack of frozen cucumber peels and carrot peels. Maybe the butt end of a head of celery, lettuce right there. Let's see if we can hang on to a little bit of this for the other system. Let them have a little bit of this too. We'll give these guys a banana peel, or what might actually be 2 banana peels here. I thought it was, or what is this? Just little chunks of banana peel. And what remains is another one for the other bin. And let's scoop out this filter with the coffee in it, and this will be their feeding for this go around. It doesn't even really seem like that much. It always seems like when I'm portioning this stuff out upstairs in the kitchen, removing it from my freezer, I feel like I've pulled out a good amount of stuff, but once it's in the bin, it always seems like it's just not a lot at all. But it's not bad. It's a pretty decent looking feeding. I think I put grit in last time, but since I've got a bunch, I'm going to go ahead and give them some more. The grit that I'm using here is pulverized eggshells. And you know what? just because you can never go wrong with too much bedding. We'll take a little bit of this dry shredded paper that I've got here on the side. Paper slash cardboard, but it does look like it's mainly paper, newspaper. I'm pretty sure I have cardboard shredded in there too. Hold on. Yeah, I just remembered that I had sort of separated the contents of that bag to have the paper on one side and the cardboard on the other side, so I could pick and choose. So that's pretty cool. African night crawlers, you know, they like the bedding. You know, a lot of people will tell you that give them a nice feeding of all kinds of delicious fruits and veggies, and chances are they're going to probably turn their attention more to the bedding that you've given them as opposed to the nitrogen-rich kitchen scraps and stuff. So I want to make sure I'm giving these guys generous bedding. I guess the one drawback of being real generous with the bedding is that it does feel like the system fills up so quick. It's like I'm driving towards the upper rim of this container much more quickly than I have in the past, because in the past I've not been nearly as generous when it came to applying bedding alongside my feedings. So I might have to take that into account before I start spilling out of this container. So to replace the plastic coverings in this bin, they're getting this piece of advertisement, supermarket flyer advertisement, and a pretty snug fitting piece of cardboard. It does seem like it's a tailor-made fit. A little snug, perhaps as it gets a little higher it won't hit up so much. I think we'll be there soon. But whatever. Let's get the other bin, the adult bin, out here and get them fit. I should get the camera a little closer, don't you think? Puny little bin, which I promised the worms I would eventually upgrade to something a little bit bigger, a little bit more spacious, so they're not so cramped into here. But for now, I think they'll be all right. I did do a little secret video in one of my recent segments about this system and its adjoining system where the adults came from that we just fed. And what we did there was I had played back the video really slowly, not really slowly, just at natural speed, of me selecting all the worms to occupy this bin. In the regular release video, I play all the work back of me picking worms out to be placed into here very, very fast, maybe 10 times. I do show it all, so it's all there. If you have the patience to maybe play it back at quarter speed on YouTube and count every single one. But to make it easier, I had actually put a secret link into one of my videos, just showing only that work of selecting out the worms to be transferred, making it much easier to count them. And I came up with a count, and it did look like only 12 people went to go visit that secret video I tucked away. But of those 12 people, I think I only got one person kicking in a guess on how many they think they saw while I was in there counting, and their guess pretty much perfectly matched my guess. So on my spreadsheet, I've already updated it. I'm actually keeping a new head count, or a number, occupant tally for this bin, which is in sync with me actually watching that video and counting every single worm that I moved over, and getting concurrence from at least one viewer so far that I did actually come up with the right number. A little bit lethargic. I guess you go from dealing with more jumpy, kind of more active worms, then you go to a worm like this that's maybe a little bit more slow moving. The other thing about these African night crawlers is that they're a lot more tolerant of the bright lights overhead. So while you would expose some other worms to these lights and they'd be immediately reacting to it, some of them are just sitting there, you know, not really fazed by it too much. feel more of them as I kind of probe through the, let's just open it all up. Let's take a look at what we could see in here. The middle section, which is where I fed the bin last time. And it's not unusual that the worms are all hanging out there. The stuff they received was frozen, so as it thawed and as it was broken down and eaten, it all emitted moisture, which is clearly visible through here. All this material's got a nice dampness to it. Oh, wow. This isn't the kind of bin where I'm expecting to get big worm balls, because I know I've only got a certain number of worms in here. Just wondering if anyone else is willing to take the challenge to go count them and come up with another guess. But I am now definitely tracking this population based on that new number. And I think just if I had made reference to what the old figure was, I don't remember if I did or not, the actual amount was, I think, significantly less than what we had come up with as sort of a communal joint estimate of how many worms there were. These must all be tubes, cardboard tubes. Seemed like good material to rest today's feeding on top of, so I figured I'd snag them and get them right into where the action's going to be. Looks like we've got ourselves another tube here. So we'll give these tubes some nice attention by being right down in the middle of the action where the food's going to be. Then maybe we'll use some of our custom-made bedding to top things off once we've fed. Let's drop in the food. And I don't even know what the actual ratio would be, as if the original amount of worms that I started the other system with was somewhere in the neighborhood of 500. And then if I were to consider the removed number of worms as sort of a ratio, I think it's, I don't know, maybe a third or so. So I've really only got a population that's about a third in here versus what is estimated to be in the other system. But whatever, they're getting pretty much the same amount of food, perhaps just a touch less. I think this batch of coffee right here is perhaps a little less than what went into the other bin, and maybe the amount of food we left for them is a little less too. But whatever, they're both systems seem to be doing a pretty good job working through whatever I've given them. I didn't know what to expect after a week, if there was going to be any leftovers or what, but it does seem like the worms in this system did a really good job tackling what I gave them last time, so I'm sure they'll do a similar job with what we gave them here. I bet you this stuff will be gone in about a week's time too. And in its place we'll have some nice castings, a little bit of moisture, probably another little worm party going on. So let's get back a little bit more of this lovely bedding material that I've crafted. And it doesn't look much different from what's in the bin already. This bin is still too young to even expect much in terms of castings production, I believe. I mean, we didn't really look at it from that point of view, did we? I don't think we did. I mean, there's a little bit here and there, but I would think most of it's probably down where the food was and the moisture was. But let's not go crazy disturbing these little guys. Let's let them get back to work. Now that they're fed, our work here is done. I do have that other coffee filter that I had set aside, so I thought that maybe we would lay it in here as sort of an indicator to show where we last fed. Maybe we'll do that in the other bin too. I believe we don't have an indicator to show where we last fed in that other one either, but at least we have one here now. Kind of a little tradition here in my worm bins. So all I got to do here is get things covered up again. It does seem to me like that piece of plastic that was covering things up, just sort of like a just like a produce bag from the supermarket folded in half. It's I was just curious if it was big enough, you know. Is the moisture being retained right beneath it sufficient? Is the dryness on the outside causing an issue? I don't think so. I think I prefer the idea of airflow around those gaps on the edges rather than, you know, trying to maximize retention of moisture in the system. So that's where we stand right now. I'll get this thing put away and I'll get everything cleaned up. But before I head off to do all that boring stuff, let me just really quickly say thank you. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please remember to leave me a thumbs up. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel too. That's really appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching.